Hello, gamers. We've got music. Feel it. That's the vibe, baby. We're coming in hot. Intro music, baby! Listen to this production level. Listen to the level of the production. Welcome to Maximum Alert. I'm your host, Ethan. Thank you guys for joining me. I haven't licensed that song, so I'm going to have to email that guy and hope for the best. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys had a good week. We're going to get into it today. I'm going to try to bring a high level of energy. I got to take my headphones on. I'm going to keep my headphones on. This feels better with my headphones on. Feels better with the headphones on. What are we talking about? Wednesday, I threw out my back working out badly. And I was down bad. I was in bed up until a couple hours ago, basically. And this is Saturday. So it's been a few days. So I hope you guys can forgive the day late upload. I'm sure a lot of those are going to come in the future anyways. But we have got I know the concept I want to do here. I've got the narrative that I want to weave for you guys, but this episode's a little ad hoc. Okay, I didn't have a ton of time to do preparation here because again, I couldn't sit up for 3 or 4 days, however long it's been. So we're doing our best, but our best may not make it to an hour. But so just bear with me. Anyways, guys, we've got a good one today. We're going to call this episode the White Pill episode, dude. There is a lot of negativity. All right. There's a lot of negativity out there, and that bothers me. The negativity bothers me on a deep level. People love to be upset. They love to be upset. And for whatever reason, people want things to be as bad as they can be. I noticed this. This is unpopular, okay? This is an unpopular thing to talk about, but it has to be mentioned, okay? In 2019 or 2020, whenever the COVID thing happened, when it first kicked off, right? Now, COVID was being covered by a few people before everything shut down, right? When it was just in China. There were a few people on the internet who kind of spotted this thing, thought it was crazy, started paying attention to it. And I followed those people very closely. So COVID was coming in. What am I trying to say here? I don't want to say like, oh, I knew COVID was coming. I saw it coming. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I am saying is that those people who later became popular, right-wing influencers or whatever, a lot of people on the internet who are very popular today heard about COVID, saw COVID coming, and they were afraid. They were scared because we didn't know what was going to happen, right? And so before the lockdowns occurred, they were all gung-ho about how bad things were. And the other side of the aisle, the other side of the political aisle, was trying to reduce the fear, or not necessarily reduce the fear, but trying to placate and make things seem smaller than they were. And a lot of the right-wing guys were real gung-ho about COVID and, we got to get out in front of this, and this is scary. This is bad. This is going to be an apocalyptic situation. And when it became clear that that wasn't the case, that this was a kind of a fake thing, a lot of those guys were really hammering that it actually was apocalyptic. It took a minute. It took a couple weeks there, maybe a month for the political parties to flip on what was, whether or not COVID was a big deal. And they really wanted, a lot of these right-wing guys wanted it to be as bad as they wanted it to be as bad as it could have been. And they didn't care about the numbers. They didn't care about a lot of the things that were coming out that were positive. They wanted to focus on the bad. They wanted to make things seem worse than they were. They wanted them to be bad. And that has not changed. That like proclivity to want things to be as awful as they can be has not changed. There's this, I don't know what it is, but there's this sort of characteristic of people on the right to just like, they fetishize being in a bad way. They love it. They love it. They love being like the marginalized group. They love, it's very odd. It's very odd. So this is going to be an unpopular episode for the internet because there are so many dudes out there who want things, who like regular rank and file people I talk to, guys who want things to be as bad as they could possibly imagine. They want the cities to be bad so that they have to carry a gun. They want things to collapse so that they're prepping makes sense. And at the end of the day, what I think a lot of what it comes down to is that this is just dudes who want to spend 20 grand a year on bullets and guns and stuff they think is cool. And they need a way to justify it to themselves, to other people. They want to make YouTube videos about it. They want to talk about it with their friends. They want, this is like a big gun guy thing. Like in gun culture, dudes will be like, yeah, well, of course I have to have the Winchester perfect gun rifle, because if I don't have the perfect gun rifle, then how can I make a headshot with my pistol from 9 yards? A perfect headshot shooting over a sitting crowd at an active shooter situation. I have to hit him in the head. You have to be, in order to be a man, you must be able to hit a perfect between the eyes headshot at exactly 9 yards, at 15 yards. You must be able to do it. You have to. So I have to have this $1,000 red dot scope on my Glock. It has to be there. It's for safety. Be reasonable. And what that really is, what they really want is an excuse to waste money on their hobby. And it legitimizes their hobby. If you make your hobby about safety, listen, I know that there's a 2% chance that I'm going to be assaulted, but if I am assaulted, that gun needs to work. All right. And the thing about that, the thing that's annoying about that is that it's not untrue, right? So they're not wrong. I mean, they are wrong because of the spirit of what they are doing is messed up, but they're not factually incorrect, right? I mean, it's a low percentage chance that you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to need a gun, but man, if you need one, you definitely don't want it to be a high point or whatever. So there's this like I said, this fetish, there's a fetish. These people have a fetish with things being bad, with blackpilling, and blackpilling is like a term that people use to describe someone who's pessimistic or cynical in some way. And it's really bad, man. It's not good for you. It's not good for your soul. It's not good to despair. It's not good to feel like your situation is in a bad situation. You're in a bad situation. And so, we're going to try to counter that narrative. And it's unpopular to say, hey guys, things aren't that bad. Or, well, not that they aren't that bad, because they obviously are pretty difficult right now, but that the future is bright. Right. It's unpopular to say that the future is bright right now. People do not want the future to be bright. People want the future to be limited and dark. And for whatever reason, I mean, part of it, is because they want to justify prepping or whatever. Another part of it is because they want to justify irresponsible spending. They want to, well, if there's no future, then why should you have a kid? You're totally liberated. If the future's bad and it all doesn't matter anyways, then you're liberated from having to worry about the future. So that's like a young people angle. Young people like that are that's why they fetishize how bad things are or whatever. And so today's the white pill episode, dude. Today is the episode about our enemies losing. That's what this episode is about. And that is what's happening, by the way. The unrest that you are witnessing in the world is not because the powers that be are winning. The unrest you're witnessing is the instability of them losing power and desperately trying to cling to it and pulling off, trying to do crazy stuff like have an obvious MK Ultra victim try to assassinate a former president. And so they're getting desperate. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing people get desperate. And so we'll go through the docket here. I might be able to burn through this. So, hey, maybe you're lucky this week. Maybe you'll get out of this one easy. But the first one I want to talk about is China. Okay. There's China's a big, boogeyman. China's scary. They're coming. Hello? I come here. I take your food. I take your people. I buy all your farmland. And I grow rice on it. I get the water I send back to my country. We building trains in my country. We sit out of styrofoam. Okay, that's what's going on in China. They're building trains out of styrofoam. And that's real, okay? You go to China, you look at the bridges, major support beams are there's holes in them that are filled in with ramen noodles. And that's not a joke, that's real. You can look that up. So hold on, let me look one thing up before I forget about it. Farmland ownership in the U.S. by demographic. Google search. You can't Google search anything anymore, which is sad. But okay, there we go. Those are the numbers I wanted. All right, So I have to do. This is post recording. I need to interject this into the middle of the show because I mentioned this stat, and then for the rest of the recording, I forgot to actually bring this up. So the thing I was going to talk about is that one of the bugaboos you hear about China is that they're buying up all the farmland, and that is not a scary thing because it's not actually happening. I think it's 80% of all the farmland in the U.S. or 90%, 98%, I think actually is the number. Some absurdly large amount of farmland is actually held by American families. So the people who have held that land since like the 1800s, they still own the land. So it's American families that are farming the land. It's owner operated. It's some absurd number, like 80%, 98%, somewhere in there. There's an 8 in the number and it's high. So there's that's not a real problem yet. I mean, maybe it can develop into a problem at some point, but the anecdotal story you hear from your cousin in Oklahoma who's like, well, some company came in and built a thing and now they're pulling out all the gravel from all the 100 acres of farmland. Yeah, that sounds scary. But when you break down the numbers, it's really not a problem. China is not buying up all the farmland. Bill Gates owns not even 1/100th of the farmland that's available. It's mostly owned by regular people like me and you. But that's it. Back to the regular programming. Bye-bye. So, China. We'll start with China. You can see online, if you watch Fox News, if you talk to normal people at your church or at your gym or wherever it is you're talking to people, there's this idea that China is they're taking our technology and they're making it better and they're leagues ahead of us and they have missiles we haven't even developed yet. And look at their cities they have neon everywhere. It looks like cyberpunk. It's the greatest thing, whatever. People can grow tails. Whatever it is that they're saying over there. Now, the first thing I want to say is that anything you see coming out of China is highly curated, right? I think that's one of the things that I think should be obvious that nobody mentions, that nobody talks about. The Chinese have their own internet, right? The average person in China can't go to the internet the rest of the world has. So they're not posting the run of the mill Chinese person's day-to-day life is not being posted on the internet. It's not like you get some preview into a normal person's life by going deep enough into your TikTok feed. It just starts feeding you just random stuff like it does. It's not like that. You're not going to see what goes on really in China. Everything that makes it to our internet is this thing that's been approved by their government, which is crazy because I've seen several videos of them boiling monkey buttholes for food, and that's not a joke. So China is that's the first thing I think that everybody needs to get through your head is that these numbers coming out of China, the reports that they make, these things are almost always a lie. The videos you see of rich Chinese people are curated. There's maybe 7 of those people in the entire country, and we'll dig into that. We'll dig into why that's absolutely true in a little bit. But one of the things I also really need to really drive home for you guys is that everything you see in China that's like, wow, they built a train station in 48 hours. First of all, that train station is going to fall apart. It probably leads to nowhere. But also, the Chinese government is printing money like you cannot believe. All right. Now imagine the economic pressure, all things getting more expensive. It's not price gouging in our grocery stores. All right. That's not a real thing. I don't care how retarded you are, how incapable you are of thinking into the second and third order. It just because things are expensive at the grocery store, it doesn't mean that it's the grocery store's fault. All right. So take your little head, expand it, pull it apart, wrap it around what I'm about to say, like a big balloon or something. All of the money we're printing here it's an order of magnitude worse in China. So their inflation is even worse in China. They are way worse off in China economically. On a day-to-day, you want to go buy a gallon of milk. I mean, I know they don't drink milk, but you want to go get a pound of rice or monkey holes or whatever disgusting, vile gutter food it is that they're feeding themselves over there. It's all way more expensive. It's all way worse, right? And here's some numbers for you. So in 2022 and in 2023, the Chinese government printed 11 trillion yuan or yuan, whatever, yuan. I'm going to call it yuan. The Chinese dollar, they printed 11 trillion of them. All right. Now, one Chinese dollar is worth about 14 American cents. So it's a tenth of an American dollar, basically, like if you want to do simple math. They are printing 10 times more money than we are. Okay. So there's a total of $100 and something billion printed by the US. Last year, there was 1 trillion US dollars printed in China last year. All right. That is absurd. That is absurd. I'm sorry. I'm getting self-conscious about the math, so I'm like redoing it in my head while I'm talking. So I apologize for the pausing. But yeah, so that I'm pretty sure that math checks out. I forgot. I didn't write down I wrote down the conversions. I don't know where they went. The Chinese government is 10x what we're doing, right? We have $100 and something billion printed in the US. They have $1 trillion printed in the US or printed in China, which is, I know you can't quantify $1 trillion in your head, but just go get 10 of something and put it in front of you. Now multiply that times 100 billion. All right. That's what $1 trillion is. It's insane. It's an absurd number. They are in a bad way economically. Their rate of inflation has got to be absurd. And we don't know what their rate of inflation is because they don't, we can't get good numbers from them. The only reason we have an accurate estimation of how much, yuan is being printed is because that money hits a global market and you can compare it versus other, whatever it does. I won't break into it, but we have third party. We have a objective way of measuring how much money they're printing. And all the rate of inflation, we have no idea what it is in China. You can look it up, I'm sure, and you'll get a number from Google, but you have no way to confirm that number is true or not because it's a communist government. They're just going to say either something that sounds bad and which means it's way worse, or something that sounds good. So there's no way to tell exactly what the specific numbers around their economic situation. But I can tell you this. So this year in 2024, the Chinese government or China has seen the biggest exodus of millionaires ever in the history of their country, right? There haven't been a lot of millionaires in the history of their country, but more millionaires are leaving China now than they've ever seen before. The rich people are not moving to China. Rich people are fleeing China in huge numbers. 15,000 millionaires have left China this year alone. Last year it was 13,000. You need to understand what that means, right? These are people who understand money. That's how they get. That's why they're millionaires. Is because they understand money. They understand business. They understand how to make money. That's how they became millionaires. They're what you would usually call in a U.S. market the smart money, and the smart money is getting out of China. In gambling, they're called the sharps, and they're getting out. They're getting out of China. The people who know the best about what's going on in the Chinese economy are leaving quickly. It's not good, man. It's not good over there. The Chinese government is in a bad way. So that's one enemy down. China is not the future. They are not the future. They are printing recklessly just to stay afloat. They are desperately. This whole BRICS thing is a total. It's not real. It's a fugazi. It's a fugazi. This idea that China is going to create this economic and trade alliance with other countries because the U.S. dollar is untrustworthy now is absurd, because every issue that the U.S. dollar has, the yuan has 10x, has an order of magnitude worse. And so it's not that they are not a legitimate competitor to us. I think the U.S. has 11 aircraft carriers and China has like 2 or 3. And I think we haven't even seen one of them actually set sail. So we don't even know if it works. They don't have the military might to compete with us. They don't have the economic power to compete with us. They just don't have it. They can't compete. And so you don't have to worry about that. Whenever you start hearing something, China, things are good in China. They're coming, they're producing, so their manufacturing is better in China. They're building more nuclear factories. It doesn't, all of that stuff it's a moot point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because the fundamental issues that we talk about all the time and on this show and on Work Hard and in Hyper Premium in general, the fundamental issues that we talk about that are a problem with the U.S. economy are a problem for China, but theirs are 10 times worse. So they are going to hit the wall well before we are going to hit the wall. They're in a bad, bad way. So that's the China problem knocked down. Chinese are not... they're not threatening. They're making noodles. They're, spending a lot of money trying to keep pandas alive or whatever. Their martial arts suck. It's a dead end. Now the next thing I want to talk about, I'm cruising, brother. We're definitely not lasting an hour. The next thing I wanted to talk about here is, I'm going to use this as an example, but I kind of want to talk about a broader issue. And so this is this happened this week, came out this week. Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying that he regrets giving in to the White House pressure to censor certain content. He apologized for and admitted to the fact that the Biden administration pressured Facebook to censor the Biden laptop stuff. Now, the Biden laptop story, if you're not familiar with it, I can go through it real quick. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, had a laptop with, who knows what was on it. All kinds of fun stuff. Records of his drug use, of probably child porn, child molestation, all kinds of nasty stuff was on this laptop. And Hunter Biden took it into a repair shop to have it repaired, didn't wipe the laptop, and the repair shop, I guess, came across all this content, felt that it was illegal or whatever, and turned it into the authorities. And the story goes on from there. But it was a big deal in the election, the last one. It got suppressed everywhere. It was a conspiracy theory. If you talked about the Hunter Biden laptop, you were a racist and a conspiracy theorist. And it was censored on all the major platforms. And Zuckerberg is coming out saying that he regrets participating in that he regrets participating in the general censoring of content on his platform, that he regrets giving into any pressure put on him and his company by the government. And that is insane. Okay. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things that Mark Zuckerberg is coming out and saying that? No, it's not. But it's not that Mark Zuckerberg is coming out and saying it. It's what him saying. It's what that symbolizes. It's what that represents. And what that represents is that the ship is sinking. Their ship is sinking, and the tertiary people that sort of orbit this core group of globalists, Anglo-Jewish conspiratorial cabal of people that want to, upload themselves to computers and kill the rest of us. The group of people that orbit that group, they can see the writing on the wall, that their time has come, that the current global elites are not going to be elites in a couple decades, if not by the end of, this decade. And so they are jumping ship. They are starting to realign themselves with the masses, or at least realign themselves with whatever group they think is the most likely group to, keep them in their cush positions of power and wealth. And part of that, so I'll make a philosophical argument. Maybe this is a philosophical argument. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but, the idea here that I kind of want to put in your head to argue this point is that, pre-World War I, post-World War I, 100 years ago, all right, 100 years ago, the intelligence agencies and the Federal Reserve System was created. And that, I think that's really kind of the birth of the, institutional instantiation of the cabal that now rules the world, was when the when the reserve banks were created and when the intelligence agencies were created. Dang, why was I saying that? This is what happens, man. Laying down for 3 or 4 days, my brain's not sharp anymore. Hold on, let me try to remember. I got to pause here. Okay, I remember what I was talking about. So 100 years ago, these institutions, the people that had power, didn't have enough money and power. They wanted more. And so they created a system to secretly and in an underhanded way siphon that money and that power from you, from your from your whoever was alive in your family 100 years ago, to siphon it from the people that had gained all this power in all these revolutions that had occurred around and after the American Revolution. These people that wanted to regain their families' positions of power before these monarchies were greatly overturned, or largely overturned. And so they wanted to, reinstantiate some kind of feudalism or whatever, think about it in whatever way you want. They wanted more money. They wanted more power. And so they created a network of banks and intelligence agencies that now make up the global cabal. Now those were very successful. They had a lot of power. They gained a lot of power. They took a lot of wealth from the American people and from whatever countries were productive outside of America, which is not many of them. Europe, I think, was kind of pretty much largely done at that point. They were done being productive. They were already shifting into the laziest, greasiest, most useless group of people on the planet. Europeans, dude. Ooh. One of my favorite things about the fact that, about my new job that I'm going to start hopefully at some point soon, is that I won't have to work with Europeans anymore. They're so lazy. These organizations, the cabal was created to siphon money and power to an elite group of people away from everyone else. And they did it. They were successful. All right. Do you feel like you have a lot of money? Do you feel like you have a lot of power right now? No, of course you don't. Here's the problem. Once these people who were aligned with each other because they were all equally motivated to accrue power to themselves, once that group that they've created has acquired all of that power, there's nowhere else to get more power from other than from each other. Right? They've taken all the power up into their group, and now their group has all the power and all the money. And now what are they going to do? If they want any more power, any more money, they have to start competing with each other. And that is a big part of what you're seeing today. That's why everything seems so chaotic, is because it is, because they are no longer unified. They're being pulled apart through their own greed, their own ambition, their own arrogance. These people are, I wouldn't even necessarily say that they're incompetent. I think that there is an incompetency issue amongst their group. But I think the people at the top are still incredibly intelligent and definitely know what they're doing. But they're turning on each other out of greed. They're facilitating their own destruction, which is always what was going to happen, which is always what happens with tyranny. It facilitates its own destruction. And because that's happening, you're watching people that would usually be in cahoots with one another. You're watching them turn on each other, and that's what this Zuckerberg thing represents. And we're going to see more and more of this. We're going to see this unseen war that's happening behind the curtain is going to the explosions, the ripple effects, the damage to these people, to each other, that they're doing to each other, is going to poke through in little ways. And if you look at the news and you know what to look for, you will see the little cracks and the little destruction in the dam that's going to eventually burst and redistribute power and wealth amongst people as it ought to be. Now, when the dam bursts, there's going to be a flood, and so it's going to be uncomfortable for 8 months. But if you can keep your head down and not get, not spaz out and panic and do something weird during that time, then you're going to come out on the other end in a, the fourth turning will end and the first turning will start. And you're going to be if you're a young guy, if you're in your 20s right now, you're going to be, your most productive years are going to occur in the middle of an economy that's booming, and booming for real, not fake booming like this one. So if you can just hold your ground, then you're going to be great. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about China. You don't have to worry about the global cabal. They're going to destroy themselves. China's going to destroy itself. These people are going to destroy themselves. God is going to turn these people over to themselves. He already has. It's happening now. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be growing pain for this to occur. I'm not even going to make the claim that the U.S. is going to survive the 8-month turnover period. I don't know what's going to happen, but again, if you can secure your spot, hold your family down, then you're gonna be in a really, really good situation on the other end of this thing. And what is this thing? Let's dive into some stuff. Oh, you know what? One last thing. So Nate Silver is a really popular poll. He's a political reporter, and he's done some really impressive aggregation of polling data. He's a statistician, smart guy. He's a good source for this kind of stuff. Nate Silver now has Trump. His prediction is that Trump's going to win 52% chance over Kamala Harris's 47% chance. So Trump's back on top. We all knew that was going to happen, I think. And again, I think the thing that you hear today most often, the thing that I agree with, is that Harris came out strong because the Democrats felt so much relief from having the hope of having Joe Biden step down. But as that sort of euphoria begins to fade, they're going to have to actually run Kamala Harris, which is an impossible task. Kamala Harris isn't a human being. She's a automaton. There's an actual human hand up her working her mouth. She's not a person. She represents, she literally probably doesn't have a conscious thinking mind. She probably had to sacrifice that thing in order to become the creature that she's become today. They're not running Kamala Harris. Okay. I feel foolish saying that out loud. Kamala Harris isn't running for president. All right. Kamala Harris is not running for president. Something else is running for president. It's not Kamala. All right. So just think about that. That's another good thing, right? But we'll see if that ends up being good. My thesis still is that they're gonna try to kill Trump again, probably. Maybe they won't. Maybe they're arrogant. They think they can cheat, or they know they can cheat, and so they won't try to kill Trump again. But they will try. This is not a fair fight. All right. That's what I'm trying to say here. If Trump gets into office, it will be by the hand of God. That is how Trump is going to get into office. They very clearly did not want him to be the president of the United States. They totally sabotaged his presidency last time, and it looks like they're already even gearing up to do it again. The RNC was an incredible embarrassment. There's Indians everywhere, praying to Gupta or whatever, eating curry. And that's they've got like old hookers with face tattoos giving speeches about how good Trump is. That, like, they're gearing up to try to surround Trump again with bad actors and retards. And so even if Trump gets into office, who knows if he's going to be able to turn the ship around. But maybe that's what happened. Or that's what happens. Maybe there isn't a climactic issue that occurs. Maybe Trump gets into office. He has a good understanding of how to get the national debt paid down. He keeps things from, he keeps whatever. Maybe nothing bad happens. Maybe we get into a booming economy because Trump knows what he's doing and everything goes well. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Kamala's going to be the president. I think things are going to get worse and worse and worse for the next couple of years until finally the whole thing goes belly up. That's what I think is going to occur. So let's start talking about things going belly up. Okay. And this is good, right? This is good. This is the stuff we need to see. So I'm going to give you some stats. U.S. pending home sales are lower than they were during COVID. All right. Pending home sales, which means people are not buying homes. Okay. The banks are already adjusting their mortgage rates to get ahead of competition when the Fed starts cutting rates next month. So housing, the loans. Sorry, I'm doling. It's late. The housing. What am I trying? Holy smokes, baby! What's going on? What am I trying to say? The housing market is reflective of a bad economy, of an actually bad economy. No matter what the numbers say, we are in a recession, and the housing market is continuing to reflect that. Right. So this week we hit a record low in pending home sales, which means people are not buying homes. And housing prices are getting cheaper. We talked about this before. Housing prices are getting cheaper, but purchasing of those houses is not going up to reflect the people's ability to buy houses more, because it's not actually an ability. We talked about this before, but it is that wages are too low, not that housing is too high, which I guess is kind of the same problem if you want to look at it that way. But what I'm saying is that subsidizing demand or bringing housing prices down is not going to solve the housing issue. The next thing I want to talk about is again the housing stuff, but I want to talk about it from a different angle, which is that housing is at a record high when compared to the 130-year average. So one of the things that financial people in finance will use, one of the indicators they'll use of for future price action to decide where the price is going to go, is they'll use these things called moving averages or running averages. And it's just like all of the pricing data that we have for a lot amount of time, including the present moment. So over the last 130 years, the average housing price has been around $150,000. It is now in the U.S. $298,000, the average housing price. Now that is astounding, 100% higher. Having the real price of housing, having the average cost of a house in the U.S. be 100% higher than the 130-year average is a massive indicator that there's going to be a correction in the market. To give you an example of what the housing market usually is over what I'll tell you is the second time that it's been this difference, the difference between what the 130-year average is and what housing costs was in 2006. And I don't know if you guys know what happened shortly after 2006, but the whole kit and caboodle went down. All right. And housing saw a almost 50% reduction in its pricing. So houses, their houses went down by almost half their cost on average in 2008 when the crash happened. Um, and so what we're looking at now is an even worse situation, right? The last time that it even got this anywhere close to this high, which it wasn't this high in 2006, was in 2006. What followed 2 years after that was one of the greatest financial catastrophes ever to have occurred in human history. And it was only negated, the real consequences of that were only negated by printing an absurd amount of money from the Fed that kicked the can further down the road. But I think the road's ending, and I think we're seeing it end. So the point of what I'm saying here is that there's going to be a retracement, right? Things mean revert, which means they always go back to their average, or they don't always go back to their average, but they're always pulled towards the average. So there will be market correction, and the market correction means that we are going to see a reduction in housing that could be as substantial as 50%. So all housing gets its price is cut in half. That will be amazing, obviously, for young people like myself and young people like the ones that listen to this, who are looking to get into a house but cannot. But again, there's still that wage issue. So I've hammered this. You need to figure out how to make more money, all right, so that you can jump on this when it occurs. You need cash in your pocket. I would not advise buying a house right now. I would advise waiting for the retracement. I'm not literate enough financially to know when exactly it's going to happen. I would be uncomfortable giving you some prediction. I would imagine it will be in the next couple of years. These things usually take some time to really metabolize. So it will maybe be sometime in the next couple of years, but it is coming. And I think that the housing crash, the future housing crash that's on the way, is going to be a part of this larger economic crash that I keep talking about. And I said this, I think I said this in the last episode, but I'll say it again here, which is that I think that I don't think that there's going to be a World War III. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that there's going to be a global economic collapse so bad that there might have been a World War III, and the amount of people that are going to starve to death because they can't get food, and in the amount of total economic destruction, the amount of wealth that will be deleted. But that's and I think that will be that'll happen mostly in Europe and in the third world countries. I don't think that we're going to see a ton of that here, but I do think that one of the things that is going to happen here is that housing prices are going to drop by 50%. And if you know what you're doing, that's good. That's not bad. So guys, that's my docket for today. I know it's a little short. I apologize for that, but again, I've incurred a pretty painful injury and had to, got to compensate for that. What's this? There was a plane crash in Fairview, Oregon. Is it a commercial flight? Major plane crash. Small plane crashes. Okay. Looks like it hit a house. That's not good. Well, there you go. There's more of that. More planes falling out of the sky. That's awesome. But it was a small plane, so I'm sure everybody's fine. So guys, listen, the point of today, the thing I want you to walk away with from this short 40-minute episode of Maximum Alert is that the future is bright. All right. Our enemies are falling apart. They are not gods. They are not these immortal, all-knowing beings that are incapable of failure. They are, in fact, humans who have positioned themselves against the creator of the universe. And they are going to lose. And I believe that we are going to get to watch them lose soon. So please, please, please chill out. Quit worrying. Focus on your money. Focus on getting cash in your pocket. Focus on keeping your family happy and healthy. Spend time with your kids. If you don't have kids, spend time trying to get kids. Spend time trying to have kids. Please don't get kids. But if you don't have a family, spend time trying to build a family. Find a young woman. If you're a young woman, find a young man. I don't think there's any young women listening to this, but if there are, please go try to find a young man. Make a family with him. Build something together. Don't buy a house right now. And don't worry about it. All right. Don't fret. Just understand that your time is coming. Our time is coming. The generations before us were greedy and they put us in a bad spot, but that bad spot I don't think is permanent. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe things are just going to keep declining and favelas are going to start forming and whatever. And sure, that'll suck if it occurs, but you know what will make it better is if you make a little bit more money. So the solution I'm offering, the thing I'm telling you to not to don't worry about it. Do this instead. It's a solution. It's a solution to a bad situation, and it's also a complement to a good situation. So if things go well, we have some sort of gigantic global market correction that destroys the entire global order and introduces a new wave of justice and peace and freedom for most of the people on the planet. If that occurs, then you want to have cash in your pocket to be able to allocate that cash to whatever resources you can as they become more available to you. But also, if that doesn't occur and things just get worse and worse, and the Brazilification happens to the entire planet, it'll be good for you to be able to afford a security guard, so you can drive. He can drive you to the grocery store and keep you safe and not mugged. And in order to do that, you're gonna have to make more money. So just focus on that. And making more money really honestly isn't that hard. It's just a matter of being cooperative and likable and hardworking. If you can be those three things, then you will make more money. If you're young, if you're like in your 20s and you do those three things, you can double your income by the time you're like, in your late 30s. Making more money is not hard. You can double your income freaking next week if you really wanted to. You just got to get creative with it. So guys, that's it. That's the message. The future is bright. It is not hopeless. We are going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I promise you're going to be okay. So just relax. And the more you relax, the better you're going to be. Anyways, guys, I love you. I'm praying for you. Peace.